No, go ahead, you guys. We have, if you have a question for Farhan, just raise your hand and we'll give you a word.
Farhan, can you just kind of explain the overall thought process behind the trades you guys made the last few days?
Sure. I think as we looked at how this season has unfolded so far, a couple things really stand out. One which people have talked a lot about, and it's certainly how we feel internally, is it's been a long road to get our rotation to the place it's in now. And we feel like we have the best rotation in baseball. So, when you have starting pitching like that, it can get you on a roll. And, for us to keep that group together, seeing how we played this past weekend was, really high priority. And obviously we had to be open to things that might come up. But that was really, really our central philosophy going into the deadline is, we have a rotation that can carry this team down the stretch and get us on a roll. The other thing is, this season for us really, I think, has been about some breakthroughs by young players. And oftentimes those breakthroughs don't happen until you give a guy a real opportunity. So Ramos' opportunity came after Lee got hurt. We released Nick Ahmed and traded Austin Slater at kind of difficult times to give Luis Matos and Tyler Fitzgerald an opportunity. Obviously, Fitz has been unbelievable for us, and Luis is still obviously a guy we believe in and think he'll be here down the stretch at some point as well. Hayden Birdsong, at a time when our rotation was beat up, really accelerated his timetable, and a lot of the Alex Cobb deal was really just about creating a spot for him. The deal last night was a lot about creating at-bats for Luciano, who's really come a long way offensively. I think we have seen his trajectory over the last few years, and we talked a little bit about how he can get put under a microscope because he's been such a highly thought of prospect from the time he signed at 16. Sometimes you lose the zoom out big picture of how much progress he's made, and we've really seen that over the last month. So I think this, the first couple of trades were really about creating opportunities for young players, which has been the catalyst for some of our best play so far. And then kind of here at the buzzer, Bob got a hold of the car keys and brought in another one of his guys. So, Mark Hanna's just like a perfect fit for this roster with, his versatility, ability to play the corners, play first base, start, come off the bench. We're very left-handed in the corner, so he fits that perfectly. And I think the relationships he has in the clubhouse, which obviously Bob can speak more to, and really this city and this region, just a great fit for us, and I know people are excited about it. So, that's kind of our thinking in a nutshell.
You've already seen this year, Farhan, just how you can never have enough pitching depth with what you had to go through in the first half. Was it difficult to give up some of that depth with Cobb, even though, like you said, you are making a space for Birdsong? Because you do have two more months to get through.
No, it was tough, partly because of the guy Alex is, and we know how hard he's worked to get back to this point, between the surgery and some of the setbacks he had along the way. And to move him right at this point, right as he's ready to take the mound for us, is tough because of the guy he is. And kind of to your point, Bags, like, you don't know if someone's going to get hit by a line drive there, first inning out there. So it, creates some risk, but for us, the job Hayden's done, and for us to kind of really believe in the role that this group of 5 starters can get on, you've got to sort of take a little bit of a chance and a leap of faith that they're going to pitch, they're going to be healthy, and if something happens, we'll have to figure out another plan. I mean, we've got a couple of guys in AAA that we think can come up and do the job for us, and we've had to sort of improvise at different times this year. Obviously, that's not plan A, but if it happens, we'll figure it out. But it's always nice to have that safety net, but sometimes, again, when you're talking about creating pathways for young players, that's some of the discomfort you have to deal with is when you're a young player, your optionable player is the best option, and the guy who, might be in front of him has to, you've got to make a move with that person. Yeah, you'd love to sort of have your cake and eat it too, but that's often not how it works. So.
Hi, Farhan. I imagine you received a bit of calls for Blake Snell. What would it have taken for another team for you to trade him away?
Yeah, I think trading him would have changed the course of this season, where we still believe in what we can accomplish. And again, leaning into our youth, leaning to our rotation is really the plan. So if someone really came to us with something we thought could really change our future, then, and you're making that sort of trade-off of the present versus, 2026, 2027, that's challenging. But again, I think the way things have come together this rotation, it was really going to have to be something that we thought would do just that, just like really change the course of future years for this organization, and not just be sort of a package of prospects that, would slide into this slot and that slot on your Baseball America list, and that just didn't happen.
Farhan, when you trade a guy like Soler, who's less than a year into a 3-year deal and he just signed, do you have to consider what impending future free agents might think about that?
I think it's a fair question. Look, Jorge was a total pro. We loved having him here. He's going to a team he's played for before, has relationships. I know he's happy about it, even though I think anytime you get traded, there's some degree of sadness or disappointment. So, we do take that kind of thing into account, understanding that there are places that a player is going to be more comfortable getting traded to, a place where he's been before. I mean, you even look like a guy like Alex Cobb. He mentioned to me when I talked to him earlier today that Stephen Vogt and Craig Albernaz were his 2 first catchers in pro ball. So, look, you can't always prioritize that and execute on that, but it's important to us. And so, again, I think any player, you sign a 1-year deal, a multi-year deal, you understand this is part of the game. And, he was just a total pro while he was here. I know it's always tough when we're talking about our belief in what we can do down the stretch. It's always tough to trade out of your major league clubhouse. But obviously bringing Mark in helps. Getting a chance to give Marco Luciano some at-bats is something we're all excited about. So I think it's a totally fair question. But, again, it's part of the business. And I still think on the grand, in the big picture, guys are really happy here, really enjoy playing here. And that's, I think, a reputation we want to see continue.
One real quick one, then another longer one. A quick one. Is Luciano going to get any shortstop time, you think?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Obviously this is really about getting him at bats in the DH spot. I don't think we're kind of putting in ink that he's a career DH now. Obviously he's young. We've talked about his defensive progress. So there may be spots where he moves around the infield, but this is the role for him right now.
And secondly, I know, you've got a season, weeks, months left in the season. You don't want to look entirely big picture, but do you have to look big picture when you're looking at the trade deadline? 6 years into it, Farhan, where do you think this franchise is? Do you think it's significantly moved forward from when you took over? Do you think there's been a stall? Where are you at with the franchise?
Look, our record is we're 2 games under 500. So, and to your point, Tim, that's we've had stretches in 22 and 23 where we got some separation from 500. We're in really good playoff position and weren't able to sustain it. And so I think that's why it was so important for us in this case to really just leverage the strength of our team and keep the rotation intact. When I look at the progress that's being made, to me it's breaking young players in. We've talked about that a lot. This year between Ramos, Fitzgerald, Birdsong, I think those are things you can really hang your hat on as something that represents long-term progress for the organization. Players who've been drafted, and that's part of this. I know you get to this time of year, and frankly, whenever you're a little bit on the competing bubble like we are, we're 3 games out in the wild card race. There's a notion of let's just let's sell and let's enhance the farm system. But you can have all the prospects you want. It's not going to matter until you actually create opportunities for them, right? So you can go out and get a bunch of guys, but if you're not willing to do some of the things we did over the last couple of days to create opportunities for those guys, it's just not going to have a chance to impact your major league team. So, really to answer your question, I would say I think what fans want to see, I think what we can hang our hat on as an organization is the progress of young players coming up and impacting us. And I named 3 guys, and that's not including, guys like Eric Miller and Brett Wisely that were acquired into this organization, but are young players who have a chance to be here for a long time. So the more of that, the more we have guys coming up, establishing themselves, like a Pat Bailey did last year, I think that's where the progress is coming from.
Hey, Farhan. Was there for you a fine line that you had to cross between, slashing payroll versus being all in on this year? How was that measured?
Yeah, there's no, for us, these were all kind of baseball decisions. And like I mentioned, John, they were decisions that had to do with creating opportunities for young players, very specific young players. And, again, we're trying to compete. We have this rotation that we think can carry us. And, we're making an organizational decision, a baseball decision for these, that we believe some of these young guys can help us get to where we're trying to get to. And, that's a responsibility that we have to sort of be right about that. That's not a responsibility that they carry. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, you talked about the best rotation in baseball. But what about the offense,
Yeah.
which has been very inconsistent? Why not bring in a big-time hitter
Yeah.
to help support that rotation?
Yeah, I guess you would like to have the best rotation in baseball and the best offense in baseball, but that's, I guess, something to aspire to. Again, I kind of mentioned this before. I think for us, the upside that we saw was giving at bats and opportunities to some of our own guys. There are always a certain group of players out there in the trade deadline. There are players that I think were rumored out there that wound up not getting traded, a lot of those guys. So, some of it is just really a hypothetical and not really a function of availability. So you've got to kind of make decisions based on, what's real and what's attainable. And, like I said, seeing the success of some of our other young players to kind of continue in that direction, and try to give them the opportunity to build on that momentum. And again, I think that's what fans want to see. It's what we want to see. We want to see these guys who are going to be here for a long time get opportunities and hit their stride. And I don't, from an organization standpoint, from a fan standpoint, I don't think anything, gets people more excited than that. And again, for us, bringing in a guy like Mark Canha, who I think is going to be huge for our clubhouse and just the functionality of our roster, you're hoping those are complementary to, homegrown players, young guys who are really doing the heavy lifting. And so that's kind of the vision we hope to see.
2 to 3 more questions.
Just kind of playing off that, Farhan. At our radio station, we take a lot of calls from fans who are kind of, I guess they're frustrated over what they perceive to be as a lack of direction with this team. What would you say to those fans who are feeling frustrated and who have maybe kind of lost hope to kind of get them excited about the future of this organization?
Yeah, I'd say, we're kind of leaning into our young players. I mean, we have heard a lot from our, look, development is not a straight line, right? I think when we're talking about guys like Ramos and Fitzgerald, they're perfect examples of it. Ramos has been in AAA for 3 years and, was getting hot and got an opportunity, and, now we see where he is. Tyler Fitzgerald, was a 4th-round pick for us back in 2019, went a level at a time, had a nice minor league career, got an opportunity to come up last year, did a nice job, and, we kind of kept the shortstop position open, hoping that somebody from our group of young players could, take the reins, and he did it. So I think that's going to be the fun of the rest of the season is we're going to continue to bring guys up. Marco Luciano's here today. We want to see him get the DH at bats and see if he can run with those. We've created a rotation spot for Hayden Birdsong, and I know people are really excited about what he's doing. So, I think to me, that's kind of baseball. It's most exciting when you're playing competitive baseball, meaningful baseball, and you've got young guys coming up who can be part of it.
And then you said back in your intro presser that you believe that the Giants should be the best at everything. I'm curious, in your 6 years here, what do you think, you and this organization have been the best at during that time?
Yeah, look, we don't have the best record, so I think to your point, anything I say is not, it's not manifested in the bottom line. So I think for us, it's, continuing to build a culture of players who want to be here, players who are proud of the city, of the organization, of the uniform. I think we have that. We have a manager who guys love playing for. We saw that this past offseason in our free agent recruiting, the excitement that guys had about coming here, being part of this organization. And again, I think farm system rankings are going to be farm system rankings, but for us to, I think we've really hit our stride the last couple of years and guys actually coming up and becoming contributors and being part of this team. And I think sometimes there's been frustration at, guys that didn't get over the hump or maybe didn't become part of that. But, every organization goes through it. And I think over the last couple of years, the examples of players we have, is getting us there. Look, we're not going to be, if you look at like rookie production, WAR, whatever, we number one. There's no team that's number one in that every year. But that's, I think, what we want to see.
Okay, 2 more.
I haven't looked at the Fangraphs playoff percentages for you today. I would imagine they were not great. They weren't great even 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Would you be disappointed if this team is not right there at the end? Do you expect to be there? Do you expect a playoff? Or where do you think your chances really are?
We expect to be there. I mean, I probably look at the playoff odds, a little too much, as probably a lot of baseball fans do, because it's hard to really interpret what they mean beyond the number. At some point, it's not really about the probability. It's a discrete question of, do you have a 10-2, 14-3 run in you to get to where you need to be? Because it's just like any individual game. A win probability goes from 0.1% and someone hits a grand slam and suddenly it's 95%. So, is it 20? Is it 70? Is it 33? I think what our playoff odds are telling us is we've got to have a big run in us, and if we do, we'll be there, and if we don't, we won't. So that's where I think the pitching and the fact that I think when you look at the starting pitching matchups, almost every game the rest of the season, we're going to look at it and believe we have an advantage there. It's a pretty good place to start any baseball game. And again, it's gonna take that run. Our guys know it, we know it, and again, I think the common thread when you see teams get on a run is just pitching that gives you a chance to win every day.
my sort of question in a similar vein. Do you see this roster as constructed as a team that can make the playoffs, or is there more looking towards the future?
Yeah, 100% I think we can. I mean, we have felt that way since the start of the season, and our roster looks different than it did at the start of the season. We've had guys come back. We've lost some guys. But 100% I believe that. And like I said, I can't sit here and guarantee it. It's going to take us getting on a roll. And, 2 weeks from now, we may look at those playoff odds and they may look very different. They may look the same. I mean, at some point here between now and the end of the season, we're going to have a 1 week or 2 week stretch where people are really talking about us being as hot as any team out there. That's what it's going to take.